everywhere in life, the power of adaptability.
That's right.
Okay, so there is, you talked about the Qs, the IQ.
Yeah, IQ is an intellectual quotient, so your intelligence.
Okay.
EQ is emotional intelligence, big deal.
You can pick up on things in the rooms, things that
The
are said, not said.
Yeah, absolutely. And then AQ is the adaptability quotient. So that means you can be super smart, you can be super tapped into what people are feeling emotionally, what you're feeling emotionally, and yet not flexible in how you operate and execute things. But adaptability quotient is its own intelligence. And there are people that have low IQ, low EQ, but high AQ. Those are the people that are like the stereotypical blue collar person who may say, I don't know much, but I know how to figure this out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like if someone gets a flat tire on the way to the airport and they're like, I'm gonna miss my flight.
Yeah.
And the person goes, just chill, I'll
Sure,
change it.
I got it, yeah.
AQ. And then,
Yeah,
that also helps if you know how to change a tire.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, well, okay, so this week we were preaching on, this last week on Friday, my kids got lice from another, from like their cousins.
Yeah.
I was so angry at their cousins. And their cousins are like little kids.
Yeah.
But it still does not, I'm still allowed to be angry.
Yeah.
In my anger, do not sin. That's what the Bible says.
Be angry, but don't blow it. As
Yes.
Mr. Bevere would tell you.
So I was so angry because I was like, that means that, and I did not find out until I took my kids to go get a haircut.
Yeah.
Right before my son's football game on Saturday. So I'm getting I take my kids to like a Supercuts or Great Clips, one of those places.
Sure.
And they are looking and they go, you have lice in your hair. And I was like, and then one by one, I found out, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I run to CVS Pharmacy. Good plug. You guys, please.
Thanks for sponsoring. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for sponsoring.
Can you imagine being sponsored by CVS?
Just long receipts.
Yeah.
And then, so we got all of the stuff in their hair. I did the treatment that you buy over the counter. I did it on Saturday. And we still made it to the game. We got there like right as it was starting, and it was like right before, so I felt really rushed, and I felt bad because I was being really snappy with my kids. I was like, let's go. And I know that just cultures anxiety in a kid, but you know, at this point, I'm like, okay, we got to get through this, and then I'll pay for therapy later. So. That happened. Then on Sunday, I was like, oh my goodness, we have church, but I also have to wash all of their sheets, all of their clothes. I need to do their hair again.
Right.
So as I'm doing that and we're at church, on Monday they go to school, and I just in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's all cured. Tuesday morning, we're having to preach at Victory College Chapel.
Yeah.
I get a call, and the school goes, your kids have lice.
Right.
And I go, no, they don't.
Yeah,
I washed it twice.
Yeah.
And they go, how come you didn't tell? Lice last up to 7 days.
Yeah.
And it can continue to grow if you don't like take care of it. You need to take them to the lice center.
Yeah.
And get a receipt that says that you got. And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost? And they go, I don't know. I'm the school nurse. So.
They can't just transfer you to the lice center.
I go, transfer me to the lice center. Give me a license.
Yeah.
Stupid joke. Okay. So
it's good.
So that means that they can't be at school. And then they have to send an email to every parent that goes, we were made aware of there was a kid in our home classroom that had lice. And I was like, oh, snap, we're that family. I'm that, like, I'm the family that is making all the other parents nervous and having to check their kids.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I told my daughter, because my daughter didn't get found out.
Nice.
And I go, do not say anything. Do not tell anyone. You're still going to school because I can't. And so anyways. But my other kids, I was like, okay, we're having to preach at Victory College Chapel. I'm also having to take my kids home. I still have to coach and do all these other things. I am someone who is not good at adapting. But in that moment, I was like, I don't have any other option.
Right.
And so, anyways, the adaptability in life is something that I'm continuing to grow in. But like, how does that happen in ministry?
Oh my gosh. I mean, when the forward-facing section of your brand is positivity
Positivity.
and being godly and righteous, then on the back end you have the reality of life that is happening without your permission in real time.
Yes.
You know, people don't die at convenient times.
Right.
People don't have mental breakdowns at convenient times. Flights don't get delayed at convenient times.
Right.
I've never been somewhere where a flight gets delayed and everyone goes, "Well, I can afford this today. I'm good." You know, it's like, no, I scheduled for it. You know.
Yes.
And then when you, in the midst of all of that, you also have to be the example for people to see. It's like, this is going to create internal tension.
Yes.
And you're either going to build an adaptability muscle, or you're going to medicate and numb yourself with some type of vice, be it spiritual pride and being high status, or, you know, porn and affairs and drinking or whatever. I'm more on the, I was so thoroughly warned about don't do pornography, don't drink, don't do drugs. I wish I had been warned about the other side, the spiritual pride, the status. That's been my obsession throughout my adolescence.
Yeah.
So not medicating with either of those has been, because honestly, they're a circle. Like once you get real spiritually prideful and you prop yourself up on how spiritually superior
fall
you
for
are,
other things.
you'll be doing lustful stuff real fast.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's that craving power.
Totally. Exactly.
That's so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and those of you guys who are listening and watching,
Mm-hmm.
some of you are like, if you go, yeah, I have the IQ, like I'm really smart,
Yeah.
and I can adapt.
Yeah.
But I'm not very aware of whether if you're married, your partner,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're like can't really pick up on emotional cues
Yeah.
in a room,
Yeah.
and you don't know how to soften yourself when when you're like, well, the job needs to be done, but you know that whole thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I was thinking about, you know, we had a sermon series, and it was like on, it was like a back to school sermon series. And it was like this fun sermon series that it was like getting your priorities straight and kids going back to school and blah, 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 blah. And then in the middle of that sermon series that my dad was doing, 9/11 happened.
Wow. Oh, wow.
9/11, which
Yeah.
every church
Yeah.
went through that. And so your sermon now changes.
Oh, yeah.
And now the churches are packed.
Right. Right.
Because when 9/11 happened,
Yeah.
people were so sobered.
Yeah, they were shook.
They were shook.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now what am I going to speak on?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so that adaptability on that, you know, with Pastor Paul, it was like, there was this in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, you can't have church.
Right.
Social distancing. And then Pastor Paul,
Yeah.
what did he do?
You got on the roof. People stayed in their cars. The radio is brilliant. Yeah.
And that all happened.
Yeah.
And it was like, here's the thing, Victory is such a large organization. You know,
Yeah.
we have these entities of like the dream centers, the camp, the school, the college.
Yeah.
And sometimes big organizations is like a cruise ship. And I don't know if you know this, but cruise ships do not turn quickly.
Can't sharp turn.
You
Absolutely.
cannot sharp turn.
Yeah. It's not a jet ski.
Yeah, it's not a jet ski.
Yeah.
And so if you're a cruise ship, so if it's a big ministry, if it's a big organization, it's harder to turn quickly.
Right.
But in that moment, within days, Pastor
Yeah.
Paul was like, okay, we can no longer meet in person. I think we did church online for like a month maybe. And then he was like, okay, since you guys cannot work, we were still paying
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And he was like, since we are still, if you are getting paid by Victory, you are now required to go work at the Dream Center in the grocery outlet line. So people still went to work if they didn't have COVID,
Yeah.
but they went to give out groceries
Yeah,
during the
serve
day.
others,
And that was
absolutely.
now, if you were in accounting, you now were putting beans and macaroni into a grocery sack.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not what I do. Well, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We're all doing it now.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing, because we're still going to do church, even if it's outside the walls.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, there was people who did not have COVID that Pastor Paul was asking of this. And he was like, with the restrictions and masks, we are going to be doing church, and we're going to have people tune into, they're going to pull in this parking lot.
Yeah.
They're going to turn their radio to a certain station, and they can tune into a sermon.
That's right. Yeah.
We're still going to do church.
Right.
And so we did that for how long?
Months, dude. It was months. And we did Easter that way.
We did oh my gosh, Easter production.
Yeah.
It was like, I was so passionate about the script that you and me
it was my
came
first
up
Easter.
with.
Absolutely.
Yes, because you did Christmas. This was your first Easter.
My first Easter, yeah.
And we were so excited about it. We had already done practices.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then our practices had to be changed to where we started doing practices in multiple rooms.
Absolutely.
So that we could maintain distance.
Yeah, we did video stuff.
We even cut back on our cast.
Yeah, we had to.
We had to cut back on our cast because of the amount of people practicing in a room with space. And then we had to spray down every chair in the sanctuary because we would practice in there.
Right.
And then we could not do this production. We had to turn it into a film.
Yeah, that's right. We made everything into one long film. We filmed it. Wow, that was probably the craziest several-month period of my time here, logistically. Not because
Explain
like
how,
I've
why?
done like you go from okay, this scene is live to now you have to go film this. So you're producing things, you're asking people, and then you also have to have the empathy and the EQ. There are certain cast members that are like there were certain cast members that we had to recast
because they go,
I'm not leaving
scared.
my house.
I'm not
going to try to coerce you to leave your house, because if you get COVID and die, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
So there were recasting that we had to do, and then I just didn't sleep for a couple weeks.
Yes.
And my body was like really tightening up. So it was the Sunday before Easter, and we went to Eureka Springs to film one last scene by the tomb, because usually the resurrection scene is live.
Yes.
And we go, let's go film this at a space over here. We found a space we could film at, etc. We get there, and I'm like, I've driven 3.5 hours to get here. I didn't sleep the night before. I've been getting everything ready. But this is before we also had built the infrastructure that we have today. Now each section of the production has a very trusted volunteer who oversees it.
Yes.
Wardrobe, props, etc. Back then, it was your boy.
It was Arvin. It was all Arvin.
Props, catering, etc. Script, etc., etc., etc. I'm so grateful for that now. However, I broke my back moving stuff and pinched a nerve and just. So if you watch Kingdom Come, the resurrection scene, 6 inches away from the camera is a 260-pound Persian man just like sitting still, because we still had to get the shot. So I passed out.
Yeah, you fainted.
I faint. Moses Ahambe, God bless him, he's so strong. He just lifted me up, and I fainted.
That was so scary. I remember being there.
I passed out.
I thought you had.
Dude, I was gone. I left, literally. No, figuratively. And then I had a whole other life in like the south of France, and I had like a wife and kids. And then I woke up and I was back there.
Your kid is tapping you on your shoulder. You open your eyes. It's me.
Yeah. No, it was. It was you guys all praying for me. It was so precious. It was so kind.
Dude, we started praying. You
dude.
definitely.
It was scary because they thought I died. They were like, "This dude just died on the set. We're gonna need another resurrection."
Yes.
Yeah. It was so. The reason
Talk about adaptability.
I will say this: I have since then done things significantly harder than that. But my AQ went up so high during COVID that it caused. We were in Seattle. We were in the outskirts of Seattle, filming the center.
Yes.
And no one knew this. The day before, we were doing a very big scene at a very big location at this lighthouse. I call the lighthouse to confirm, and they go, "Oh, we're actually under construction. You can't come here. You can't film here. Film here if you come back in a few months." It was like we can't. I just flew everybody out here. We're on a very tight budget to make this
Yes.
film. And what's crazy is pre-COVID Arvin would have lost his mind and the movie wouldn't have had the lighthouse scene.
Wow.
That day, I was like, okay, they're all filming a different scene today. I go to a coffee shop, and I'm also an actor in this. I'm not
Yes.
acting that day, thank God. I go to another coffee shop. I call a few other lighthouses. I get cussed out by the National Guard or whatever. I get told, you better not come to this one because we're not doing that. What's your permit, etc. I'm like, I'm an independent filmmaker, dude, whatever. And then we found one, and the old guy was like, well, that'd be awesome. We'd love to have you come do the filming at this lighthouse. And no one knew the night before this entire location, we found it like that. And it didn't cost me that much anxiety or stress. I went, I ordered a coffee, I sat down, I read the news, and then I was like, I should call some lighthouses. And so I think the reason God puts people who respond to his call on their life, he puts them through seasons where the whole point is not what you accomplish. It's not IQ or EQ. The whole point is the muscle of adaptability needs to be really strong. Otherwise,
Wow.
you're not going to enjoy the destiny that God gives you.
You're not going to enjoy the destination that you've been working toward.
100%.
Yeah.
And I know people, and I've watched people throughout several generations. You can just tell a difference that when it was their time to go through a season that the whole point was to develop their AQ, their adaptability, they took shortcuts thinking that they could get to the destination faster. They do get to the destination using human and fleshly carnal methods, and they don't enjoy any of it. So they resent themselves, they resent their families, they resent their kids, they resent God most of all, and their whole thing becomes a farce. And at the end, there are some examples where at the end of their life, they renounce everything.
Wow.
So I think a lot about, we've been talking this whole season, we've almost preached about it, we've preached about it before, the process of the Holy Spirit. All Scripture is inspired by God. It teaches you what's true, makes you realize what's wrong, straightens you out, and teaches you to do what's right. If you skip to number 4 and you build a whole church off of number 4,
Yes.
and you build a whole life over number 4, at some point you will sit back, exhale, and ask question number 1. What's really true?
Yes.
I know plenty of people who've made a lot of money in ministry and a lot of money here and there doing different business things, and eventually they ask what is true.
Yeah.
And the place that it occurs to me the most juicy gossip I can give today is there are people in Scripture who did not take the route of following Jesus. They took the political route. They took the route of, let me make myself important, let me get power, let me do this. And they achieved it, and they got what they wanted. And then when the time came, eventually, at the edge of their life, when Pilate is talking to Jesus in John, I think it's 17, I don't know, I have to go look at it. He looks at Jesus and goes, what is true? He asks question number 1. Because the human design is asking those questions. What's true? What's wrong? How do I fix it? And then how do I do what's right? I constantly think about people who are stuck trying to make question number 4 happen. What is right?
Interesting.
And then when they define what's right, it's what does the society I live in agree is right? Well, that's a real problem if you look at human history. It's a real problem if you look at modern. There are people growing up now who are convinced it is wrong to tell someone their gender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is why Isaiah talks about, woe to you who call evil good and good evil. And it's not some judgmental, like, I hate you way. It's like, you guys are actually going to move forward thinking you're doing what's right when you've never asked what's true.
Yeah.
And so adaptability is a matter of surrendering to God's timing and season of, okay, teach me how to accept new information and not take it personally. Because most people, that's the first thing that goes.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong, they take it as an indictment on themselves. You know what I mean? They go, oh no, if I had just been better, if I had been more prepared, if I had been whatever. Not realizing, and this is something we talked about the other day at Victory College, the presence of difficulty is not an indication that you've sinned and done something terribly wrong.
The presence of difficulty is not an indication that you've done something wrong.
Right, because Jesus is in the
That's
in
good.
Gethsemane.
For those of you guys who are
Yeah.
listening, I hope you guys really got what he just said. All
Yeah,
right.
Jesus has never sinned, and yet in the Garden of Gethsemane, he has to process the fact that he's about to do what he has to do, and he doesn't want to do it, and that's
Yes.
fair.
Okay, so that's a great point. So
Yeah.
what Arvin is saying is, if you're in a moment and you're like,
Yeah.
let this cup pass.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Jesus had the same thing. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
He knew why he came to earth.
Right.
He was there 30 years to prepare for it. And then on that 33rd year,
Yeah.
he's in that Garden of Gethsemane, and he was like,
Yeah.
can you please let this cup pass from me? The responsibility
Right.
is heavy.
Yeah.
And then he said, but not my will, your will be done.
Right. Yeah.
And that, oh my goodness, the
Yeah.
weight of responsibility, and then him accepting that sacrifice.
Right. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, sorry, I'm
No, I'm listening.
okay, I'm jumping now.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think about sometimes the greatest miracles or some of the coolest moments come from those adaptability
Absolutely.
moments.
100%.
So biblically, the story of the friends who were like, we can't get our lame friend in this packed room.
Right.
We're going to cut a hole in the roof and
right.
lower him down.
That's right. That's right.
That was adaptability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The woman who pushed through the crowd with the issue of blood. With adaptability, sometimes the greatest miracles can happen.
I would argue that every miracle is preceded by an adaptability moment.
Yes.
I don't know of anyone who just shows up going, I've prepared, I'm entitled to this, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Look at even the moment you brought up, the woman with the issue of blood. Jairus has already gotten Jesus to agree he's going to come
On the
heal his
way,
daughter.
that's where Jesus was going. Jesus was
Exactly.
going
to see Jairus' daughter. And while Jesus is healing this woman, or speaking to her, that's when the news, your daughter's, it's too late. So that's an adaptability moment. It's like, you're going to have to, for your phone?
Yeah, no.
it?
Continue.
No, you're good. He has to adapt emotionally in that moment.
Yes.
So I just think that it would be a horrible thing to arrive at the season of your destiny, the thing that you're passionate about,
Yes.
that God's called you to, and you have no AQ. Like,
yeah.
the weight of what God wants, that would be, honestly, it would be irresponsible of God. If I was to the number one place people know adaptability is in driving. You are constantly operating in an adaptable way based on the traffic around you, based on the speed.
Oh, yeah.
It's constant, you're adapting the whole time.
Yeah, you're in traffic. And so if you take that same approach, that same mindset approach, and like if you work in ministry, you definitely know about adaptability. If you're like, okay, so we don't have a drummer today.
Right.
Like if, we don't have a drummer today. All right, so it looks like we're going to be singing to a track.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Or it's an acoustic set.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that I've worked I'm over our campuses.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because my kids go with me to the campuses. And so my kids are here at the main campus, and they have classes for every 2 years. Like they have classes for pre-K.
Yeah.
Then they have classes for 1st through 3rd grade, and then 4th and 5th grade, and then 6th and 7th, like a cool junior high morning.
Yeah.
So they have all of it, and then they have what they call the sensory center, which is for kids with special needs.
Beautiful.
And they have all of this wonderful stuff.
Right.
And then they go out to Victory Manford. All of the kids are in one classroom. and it's a setup classroom in the lodge.
Yeah.
And so you have kids in there who are 1st grade, and you have kids in there who are 13.
Wow.
In the same class.
Yeah.
And they set up the chairs, and then they have the worship here with the great LED wall with really, really great worship. And then the worship out at Manford is great worship. But then sometimes, a drummer won't show up, and it will be an acoustic worship set.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that my kids get to grow up in that environment
100%.
to where they get to see this.
Yeah.
And then they get to see this, and then we go out to Victory North, which is held at the Dream Center, which, again, they have a really, really great product of a service, but it's just a different, it's so different from Manford.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so anyways, but having to adapt doing church campuses, or if you are a graphic designer, some of our graphic designers, they know this, is that Pastor Paul will figure out what he wants to preach on Saturday during worship.
Sure.
And then we are to come up with a background on the LED wall
Yeah.
within minutes
Yeah.
that will resemble
Yeah.
his sermon
Sure. Exactly.
with the title.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
And so if you work in ministry, you know, and then there are some people who get frustrated with
Sure.
that.
Sure.
And then I go, okay, you signed up for the fast lane in traffic.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if you work in ministry,
Right.
you signed up for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're in the fast lane in traffic, people are weaving in and out.
Oh, yeah.
People are getting off
Oh, yeah.
of certain highways. You know how you brought up traffic?
Yeah,
Whenever you're
absolutely.
driving, it's
Totally.
adaptability.
That's right.
If you work in ministry, you signed up for the highway.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm needing to see when I get off, and then when I
Yeah.
get on, and then when
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need to
yeah.
merge.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Totally.
part of it.
Yeah.
And then whenever it's the same thing with parenting.
Uh-huh.
You know, marriage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just unique, and so it is something that I'm a big planner,
Yeah.
and I have to because of the nature of, you
Your
know, my
responsibilities,
job and my responsibilities.
Of course.
And so, the times when I just lose my
Cool.
stuff, lose my cool. When I lose my cool,
Yeah.
it always comes down to
Yeah.
when I am forced to adapt,
Yeah.
and I don't radically accept it.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there's so many great last minute things, and I also think that some of these people, and I don't want to keep on circling around this tree. I think you guys go, okay, we get it. We need to adapt. We
Yeah.
understand. We need adaptability. Yeah. But then there are times where you go, how can we not change the heart of what we're wanting to do, but still adapt? Like, for instance, we did this production called Pilgrim's Playlist.
Yeah.
In the production, the story was these parents were getting a divorce.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was like, we don't want to,
Yeah.
that changed,
Yeah.
but we had already rehearsed, we had already written songs, and we had already
filmed it, bro.
casted. Say
We
what?
had filmed it.
We filmed it.
Yeah.
And so the story in the script, it got changed. And so the week of, we had to adapt things that
Totally.
would still make sense.
Yeah.
And still, now here's the thing. My first response was wanting to fight it.
Sure.
No, this has to be this way.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And the song is already written and da da
Yeah,
da da.
yeah.
That was my argument right when it was like, hey, we're not going to do this part.
Yeah.
And then after I wanted to fight, then my second emotion was, you know what, let's just not do it. You know what, you just preach, and then you verbally, this was me to my brother. I'm just
Yeah.
being honest. This is behind the scenes.
Yeah. Welcome.
And I go, you know what, you just preach. We'll just show photos, and that's how we'll close it. We'll just do
Yeah.
the finale, and
Yeah.
you know. So the second emotion was, oh, screw it.
Yeah.
Those are the two emotions
Yeah.
that you have when
Yeah.
you're forced to adapt.
Yeah.
Fighting it,
Yeah.
not accepting.
Right.
Or, you know what, screw it. It's all going to hell in a handbasket
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. All or nothing. Yeah.
And then the third one is you can go, okay,
Yeah.
I feel all of those emotions. They're all valid. But at the end of the day, the greater good is, how are these people going to be impacted by this story?
Yeah.
Let's figure out how we can still make this story have the same heart that we wanted from when we first wrote it,
That's right.
but it's just going to be different.
Yeah.
So how do we get people to this same moment where they can, you know, they're forced to make a decision.
Yeah.
You know, for us in that scenario, for the altar call. You know, for me, I was talking to Arvin. I coach athletes in the afternoon, and I did the programming, you know, for the workout programming for the football team and for the sports teams. Well, there is 1 or 2 days where we will have certain kids come in and they hurt their wrist at practice. And so they can't catch the bar in a squat clean.
Yeah.
Or they hurt their shoulder so they can't do a press.
Yeah.
Or they can't. And so now on the fly, I'm having to adapt their workout and I go, okay, I still want them to hit a press. So maybe they do a single arm dumbbell. And instead of the clean, maybe they do a dumbbell jump.
Yeah.
They do a weighted jump. That way they're still getting an explosive movement. So I'm still trying to figure out a way to, how do I still get them the thing that they need, but without this?
Yeah, worsening the injury.
Without worsening the injury.
Yeah.
And a temptation could be is me just telling the kid, well, tough it,
Yeah, power through.
power through, them getting more hurt.
Right. Yeah.
And me being a bad strength coach.
And you lengthen the amount of time they need to recover.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I go, you know what, sit out, don't even work out.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I don't have time for you.
Right,
which is
right.
the,
Right.
oh, screw it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyways, what
Yeah.
God has been bringing to the forefront of my mind is,
Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
you just need to get better
Right.
at the adaptability.
Right. Yeah.
And so those of you who are listening and watching, Arvin, how would you suggest, what is, what are some things that we can do in closing that can get us to that point?
Yeah. I mean, like most things, when you figure out what needs improvement, you think it's a matter of going to the store and getting the part that fixes it. But when you go to God and go, hey, I need to be more adaptable, what are my practices now? In my experience personally and in observing others, when you go to him asking for what part you need to fix in the quote unquote vehicle of your soul, he's like, oh, I need to do complete surgery on the whole thing. Because the reality is, the problem is not that you're not adaptable. It's that you are misinterpreting what the situation is demanding of you. So immediately what that exposes, when a person refuses to be like flexible and okay, we can do that, what it exposes immediately is this individual has their identity on top of their work instead of the other way around. So that right there, that alone, that problem, it's like saying, hey, the AC's not working, let's go check what's wrong. And then instead of it being a quick fix, it's like, oh, that's because the entire house has mold and all the wood has termites. You're going to have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How one small problem, when you face it, it illuminates much, much, much larger problems.
Okay.
So what the short answer of this, if there is one, is that God will then invite a person into a process where he takes their identity off of their work, and then they're separate for a while. This is what you preached about at Victory College the other day. For 30 years, Jesus was doing some work that had nothing really to do with his identity.
Yeah.
And then he makes them realize, like, it's God's identity, God's work, then our identity, and then if you'll align yourself with that process, then he can put the work on top of your identity. So you're not adaptable, not you specifically, but people watching, myself, everybody, every human being who has an issue with adaptability, it's because it's an offense of reality to what is true. It's all of a sudden saying, like, you've been operating like this is true, and because you don't cuss, and because you go to church, you think God's going to give you the life you want because you tithe. And there are people who even preach that, and it's a real problem. Over here, the truth is, you don't believe you're worth anything unless church people clap for you.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because that means you can only move forward at the pace of their understanding.
Yeah.
So anyways, I know it was like a wrap-up question, but what God will do when you ask him for adaptability is he will realign your identity and your work in the proper order, so
to
that
where it says God's identity, and then
God's work, what he did,
God's work, what he did, is
then
second.
your identity,
And then your identity is third.
and then your work.
And then your work.
That is the stable approach, because it says in 2 Corinthians, God is able to make you stand firm for Christ.
Yeah.
The fruits of the Spirit don't include stability, but try eating a piece of fruit in the back of a U-Haul that's being driven by your trauma.
Yeah.
That's essentially what most people are trying to do.
They're trying to get peace or patience or love or goodness or gentleness.
Right.
They're trying to get one of the fruits of the Spirit without...
Yeah, without the stability. Stability is the context wherein God can safely grow. And most people refuse the process of being made stable in their soul, that the fruit they get is just fruit they bought from somebody else.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? So anyways, to close it out, all I'm saying is adaptability is a symptom of stability.
Adaptability is a symptom of stability. Adaptability is a symptom of inner stability.
That's right. That's what God wants to create. Because
That's
if
what
you're
God wants to
stable in
create.
here, no amount of chaos out here can shake you.
That's
It says
true.
in Psalms, is the last thing I'll say. David writes, I think it's Psalm 27. I'd have to look it up. But one of the Psalms I read every day. It says, I will not be shaken, for you are right beside me.
I will not be shaken. You are right beside
My
me.
stability is a measure of my proximity to you, God.
My stability is a measure of my proximity to you, God. I know I'm just
No, I
saying
know. We're
everything
saying it for them.
because I'm saying it for those of you who are
Yeah.
listening to make sure that you're getting something from this because I think that's so good.
Yeah.
So my adaptability is a symptom of stability.
And stability is a measure of my proximity to God.
And my stability is a measure of how close I am
Right.
to God.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, hey, guys, thank you so much for listening. And I
Yeah.
hope that you got something from this.
Yeah.
I certainly did. I'm definitely like, after sometimes whenever you feel convicted for something, you kind of say, well, now what? Now we kind of have some walking steps that we know to do.
Yeah.
Talking to God, having him put his identity and his work before your identity and then your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we love you guys.
See you next episode.
See you next episode. Bye.